Hey, hey! Welcome to the inaugural episode of Mixing a Live Performance Live. Is that too many uses of the word live? Maybe. But we're doing it anyway. Long time no see on this channel. My name is Luke, and I am, of course, the guy behind The Riff Entertainment, which is the channel you're watching just now. Now, this is kind of a new series. It's been a little while since we've done a live series on this channel, but not forever. This is kind of, sort of, a continuation of a series that we started over on the Afterwinter YouTube channel, where I recently completed mixing and mastering the second Afterwinter album called Boundless, and thought, why not keep doing this? Doesn't necessarily have to be Afterwinter related. We'll just move it over to the Riff Entertainment channel and just keep working on whatever's going on. So that's what we're doing. Today's project is, of course, a live performance, as this says, by the cover band Shot of Whiskey, which is something that I perform with, and also the drummer of Afterwinter, Eli, performs with, and of course, bassist of Right Way to Nowhere and my best friend for ages and ages and ages, Justin Kaiser, also plays with. We also have, in this project, Kelly Holmes on vocals and Amanda Livingston on vocals and acoustic guitar. So we recorded a multi-track live performance back in May. Yep, it was the end of May, out at a place near where we are. Now, we do 4-hour sets with this band. Big, long, tons of stuff going on in this. We're not probably going to be mixing the entire thing, but my goal is to get the first couple of sets. We filmed these thinking that this is probably the last performance for a little while. We've got another few coming up, but at the time, this was the last performance for a while, so we filmed the first 2 sets, we multi-track recorded it. Time to get this thing pro-mixed so that we can put it to that video and just kind of see what happens. So, without further ado, let's take a look at the session. Here we go. All right. All my screens look a little bit weird over here, trying to get everything to go back to how it looked before. Okay. All right, so we are currently looking at the session for that show. Now, this is the whole show. So this is the whole 4-hour thing here. You can see we're looking at like 5,700 measures or something like that over there. Now, this is not performed to a click or anything. This is totally live, everything for real, and nothing has been done to this other than I imported some stuff I knew I was going to need, and I imported the stuff for the stream. As far as what's been affected on the channels, nothing at all. We are starting totally from scratch here, which is kind of exciting. I did turn everything down. So the first thing that we need to do is really some organizational stuff. Like, I don't really want to mix in here with the entire 4-hour show of audio. That would be quite a lot. So let's start by doing like a save as, and then cut it down to just the first song. All right, we'll keep all of this in this one folder. Ooh, you know what? Before we save as, I want to rename this. This should be... we already know it's Shot of Whiskey. The venue is called Hex Landing, and the date was May 24th, 2025. Okay, hopefully this won't shut my mic off. Okay. Just so that we're keeping organized here. Now we can save as. We're going to keep it all in this same folder here. We'll call this one 01 Pour Me, because that is the first song. Okay. Okay, so now that we've got that, we can pretty much cut that apart from the rest so that we're not looking at the entire 4-hour show's worth of stuff. So let's get rid of all this. That's the second and third set. Now we're only looking at the first set. And let's find where that first song ends. I suppose we'll have to have everything up just a little bit to hear. Okay. So somewhere like right around here. I don't want to cut off in the middle. Usually Amanda says something after that first song. Hey, we got some viewers. How's it going, everybody? Hope everybody's doing well. In case you missed it, we are mixing a live performance from the cover band Shot of Whiskey from a live recorded show back in May, and we are just getting started. We are right at the very beginning of this process. Cutting the first song apart from the rest. This was I'm pretty sure this was a 4-hour gig, so this was a lot of music that we had to cut down to get to this point. Let me also make sure. I bet you guys didn't hear that just now. Sure didn't. Okay. Let me fix some stuff here so that you guys can actually hear audio. We need all the instruments to, at least for now, output right there. The 3 vocal tracks. And then output to here. Okay, so now when I play stuff, you guys should actually hear it. Okay. Next step, now that we've cut apart the first song and we've put it into its own project so we can focus on it, is to get just a super basic context mix going where we can kind of hear everything that we need to hear. Now again, this is totally unprocessed, so if you're familiar with how the last several episodes of the After Winter thing that we just did went, you'll remember that even in the context mix, things already kind of sounded pretty close to the way they were going to in the final. This will not be that way. This is all directly from the source recorded. No effects, no panning, nothing. So everything's going to sound really rough until we really start digging in there and refining it. But let's start with the snare drum. So what do we got for drums here? Bass drum, snare drum, 2 rack toms, a floor tom, 2 rototoms, a hi-hat mic, and then an overhead left and overhead right. Okay. So quite a bit going on in the drums there. Some considerations to take, which we'll talk about. Let's go ahead and jump into a context mix here. The first thing I'm going to do is turn the snare up until we're hitting about -7 on that channel, and then all the other drums will mix to that context. Okay. So you guys should be hearing that snare drum now. Okay. This was also recorded pretty quiet, looks like, so we're not, even pretty much all the way up, we're not quite hitting -7. Can tell we're going to have some issues with getting that snare to sound right, too. There we go. So put a gain plug-in on that snare so that we don't have to turn it quite so far up in order to get to that -7. That right there should do us for now. Let's bring the bass drum in. Okay. Okay, hi-hat. We'll bring in the hi-hat next. Now this is interesting because normally I mix from drummer's perspective, but if we're wanting this audio to go along with video that was taken, we're going to be seeing the hi-hat on the right, so it doesn't really make sense to go from drummer's perspective. So let's pan our hi-hat over to the right some. We'll go up to 55 and we'll bring that in. Oh. Naturally, I chose a part of the song where he's not hitting hi-hat. Okay. Another thing we can go ahead and do to the hi-hat channel. Open up an EQ and high pass all the way up to 600. There's not really any reason for us to hear anything on that hi-hat channel other than the hi-hat. We can do the same for our 2 overhead channels. I want to bring in the overheads next, but there's another important consideration here too. How did I mark these? Because I've marked them overhead left and overhead right, but again, I usually mix from drummer's perspective. So did I mark these as if they were drummer's perspective or audience perspective? So let me solo overhead left, and let's see if we can kind of tell what we're hearing. Are we still hearing hi-hat, which is what I would expect? We're hearing nothing because the volume's down. Yes. Okay, so in this case, we want to make this opposite. Even though it's marked overhead left, we want to put this one to the right. And then overhead right we'll put to the left. That's counterintuitive, but again, we want to mix to listener's perspective, knowing that this audio is eventually going to be put to video that we took of this performance. We want it to match what we're visually seeing on the screen. So we'll bring in the two overhead channels together here. There we go. And obviously there's a lot of bleed here too from other instruments and stuff, because again, this is a live performance. This is an outdoor performance even. So this is definitely not studio isolation. Text going on here. Let's see what that's about. Yeah. Okay. So we've got our tom channels now. Now again, we've got 5 tom channels. They're over here on the mixer. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are all toms. The first 2 are rototoms, and then we've got 2 rack toms and a floor tom. So again, we want to pan these a little bit. And I don't know that he actually hits the rototoms in this song. Let's blow up our tom tracks here and kind of look at what we're... Yes, so we can see hits on the 2 rack toms and the floor tom, but there's nothing on these rototom channels. Let's just get rid of those for now. We'll keep them for the songs where he hits them, but there's no point in mixing them in when they're just going to be adding a bunch of unwanted ambient noise. Okay, so we need to look at a spot where he is hitting these toms. Here's a good spot. We'll just like loop a little bit of this area. We need to go pretty far up there. I think that'll work for now. All right, what do we got next? Next, we have the bass. So again, this is Justin playing bass here. Now, this is a DI here. Nobody in Shot of Whiskey uses an amp. So this is a DI channel bass. Again, recorded very quiet. We might have to use some more gain plugins. Awesome. Okay. Now we have 3 guitar channels, but we're not going to be using all of them. The first guitar channel is my guitar. Now we may be using the next channel a little bit more and more. So the channel 3 right here, or really channel 11, is my guitar again, but it's a DI that bypassed my pedal. So I used the Digitech RP1000 live to get all my sounds, and I knew that live I can be a little bit messy with switching sounds at the right time and turning on delays and turning off and on delays. So I also had the sound guy record a totally clean DI directly from my guitar to the recording, which we will probably use instead of my pedal sound. But for now, let's leave it as the pedal sound. We'll ignore 3. 4 is Amanda's guitar. There she is. Let's get a gain plug-in on Amanda's guitar as well. Because that is up pretty far and we're barely hearing it. Okay, now here's another weird thing, right? So again, we videoed this, and part of the reason that we're mixing the performance is because we want to put it to the video. For the song, if this were just a live album, I would probably leave her and I both in the center. But in the video, I'm standing a bit off to the right, and so is she. So let's pan those a little bit. We don't want to make it drastic, but we do want to kind of, you know, push off to the right just a little tiny bit. So moving my guitar over. We'll push her guitar just literally just a tiny bit. Okay. Good with that for now. Now, I don't think Amanda sings in this song. Nope, she sure doesn't. But does she say something at the end of the song? Because we'll want to keep her vocal channel for that. We'll go ahead and turn it up and see if she's saying anything.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so we can cut her channel. Again, if we have that mic up throughout the whole song, it's just going to be adding a whole bunch of extra ambient noise we don't want. We do want this over here where she's talking, but for the rest of the song, we can just cut her channel. The vocals are also all pretty quiet. So let's get some gain plugins for that as well. Just so we don't have to push them so hard on the sliders to get sound out of them. Okay. So 3 vocal mics here. One for Kelly, one for Amanda, and one for me. We're just going to gain plug in all 3 of the vocal mics.
Thank you. We are super glad to be here with you guys on this holiday weekend.
Okay. So another thing we're going to want to take into account here is that on the actual video, we're going to want these songs to flow directly from one to another. So we want to make sure that we're not cutting off. Like Amanda was kind of playing some stuff on her guitar right there. So we don't want this to end in the middle of her playing something. It looks like we're good.
With you guys on this holiday weekend.
Yeah, we're not seeing it very well, but she is still kind of holding that D chord right there. So we better extend this just a little more. So we make sure this cuts in a logical place. Okay. Let's cut it right there, right before she goes da-da-da-da. Okay. All right, we got a couple more vocal mics we want. Kelly's vocal is the lead vocal in this song, so let's get her turned up. Alright, let's get my background vocals in there. Now, there's not a lot of background vocals in this one. There's a couple of spots. Just that right there. And again, I'm standing off to the right, so we'll pan my vocals slightly right. Okay. So we've got a lot of stuff to do to this, for sure. We want to make sure that this quality is as good as we can. Now, the one thing that we can't really affect is performance. Not without having somebody come in here and totally re-record stuff, right? So we want to keep in mind throughout this that, again, this is totally live. This isn't, that wasn't very good, let's try it again. This isn't auto-tuned, none of that stuff. So we're going to hear singers backing away from the mic. We just heard that with Kelly too. When she hit the high note, she backed off a little bit, and we can combat that to a certain extent, but with live performance, that's just something that's going to be in there, and that's part of what makes it obviously live as well. There are definitely some other things that we are going to want to do to make sure that this sounds live. We will get to those when we get there. But right now, we're already sounding okay, and the only thing we've done is put some gain plugins on to make things louder, and then we high-passed the overhead mics. Other than that, no compression, no EQ, just everything straight in. That's not too bad. Now, the snare sound is something that's definitely odd. We've got this like almost St. Angry ring in it. So right off the bat, I think probably our first order of business is to go through a lot of these channels and put on some EQs. Not necessarily final EQs, but just a little bit to help things slot together and get rid of stuff we don't need. And then we'll keep talking about what we're doing more after that. So let's start with the bass drum. And there's some moves that I pretty much always do to the bass drum that we'll start with. And then if they end up not being beneficial, we will get rid of them later. So first off, usually boost 60 hertz and cut 80 hertz. This is to help make room for the bass guitar. So the bass and the bass guitar, or bass drum and bass guitar can kind of sit together. We're also going to want to put in something in the upper range for a little bit of that beater click. So let's go ahead and just put a 3 decibel boost right there. And we'll start there and kind of see what we think. So there's a few things there that are still kind of cutting out. It's not jumping through the mix. You can tell that it's there, but it's not certainly not cutting. Now this doesn't need to cut in the same way that a metal mix would, but I would like to hear it a little bit better than we are. So let's stick drum leveler on there. This is going to be super important for a lot of the drums, considering this is a live performance. We're going to make the target level 3. Crank the compression up, pull the gate range down, and then take a look. So that made a heck of a difference already, didn't it? So the drum leveler is kind of a compressor and a drum gate at the same time. This is pushing every hit that is coming in louder than this gray line, pushing it up to the orange line. So it increases our attack a lot. It's using compression to make things louder. Anything below the gray line is then getting noise gated out, which is what this knob over here is doing. This is the amount that we are reducing any sound that's under this threshold. Now, one of the things you have to watch out for with this plugin is that, again, you're destroying dynamics. That's literally what this is designed to do, is make all of the bass drums sound the same. Now, usually, especially in a metal mix, that's usually what we want, most of the bass drums to be 100% consistent. This is something that we're going to have to pay attention to here. This music can be a little bit more nuanced bass drum-wise, and we don't want to ruin that. I think this one's going to be okay with it. Let's take a look at our EQ again now that we've got that leveler on there. I think I want to reduce that 60 hertz. The bass drum's just a little bit too boomy. I want to get rid of a little bit of mid-range in it as well. I think that's fine for now. We don't want to go overboard with this because we will be doing virtual mix rack on this. So it's not like the EQ needs to make it sound exactly like it's going to sound eventually. Just want to get a little bit of a better context before we move on. So let's go ahead and leave that for now. Let's take a look at a channel EQ on the snare drum. This one's going to be big, I think. We may do a drum leveler on this, but if we do, we may have to do a little bit more work. I kind of hope we don't need to do that. We'll figure it out. So we're not seeing a whole lot of action underneath the fundamental, which is good. We'll go ahead and high pass it anyway. So a few things looking at this graphic where we can kind of visually see what frequencies we're seeing. We can tell that the fundamental frequency of the snare, or the main thing that's making up the sound of the snare, is right around 200. It's just a little above, which is normal for a snare. There is also a pretty big spike not too far after that 200. I wonder if that is that weird kind of sane angry ring. Let's check that. So this one right here. The fundamental is here, and we've got this weird extra thing right there. Let's give ourselves a little bit more thwack on the top end. And we'll cut some mid. Yeah, that's already sounding a lot better. Okay, so now let's take a look at our toms again. So we've got a few things that we can do to these, and we might as well just kind of start off with the official thing. So if we take a look at the drum leveler, I've got a preset for toms. So Eli says you could probably go even further with the low end cut. The thing is still thumping. Yeah, I was kind of thinking that too. The bass drum, right? The bass drum's still like pretty low end heavy. Absolutely. Yep. So on our toms here, we are not gating out anything. We're pushing ourselves up to 4 here. We've got a pretty low threshold, and we're not compressing all the way. This middle knob is how hard it's trying to get the hits up to this orange line. So we want the tom hits to be a lot pretty consistent, but we don't want to totally kill the dynamic, so 80% compression is usually pretty good. I usually go anywhere between 70 and 80. Let's go ahead and take a look at that bass drum. Yeah, let's just get rid of the 60 push. I don't think we need it. We might even cut more.
Inside, won't you help me?
Yeah.
Yeah, build to the top, 'cause I hit rock bottom every time.
There, we're getting somewhere. Okay, so an interesting thing happened there. I'm not sure if you guys know. Now we're hearing this drum leveler on Rack Tom 1, and you'll notice that it is boosting snares.
Inside, won't you help me? Yeah, build to the top, 'cause I hit
Which does not sound very good. And we are going to be doing something about that later. But for now, we can push our low threshold up a little bit so that it's not catching the snares.
inside, won't you help me?
Much better.
Yeah, build to the top, 'cause I hit rock.
So it pushed our rack tom that was there, didn't push the snares. Okay, next we can go virtual mix rack, which we're going to be seeing a lot of. I've got a thing on toms that I always do, which is a preset called Tom's Aggro. And we usually end up having to trim a little bit out of this. So let's take a look at what is it hitting before virtual mix rack.
Inside, won't you?
8.7 and width.
Inside, won't you help me?
We're fine there.
Yeah, build to the top, 'cause I hit rock bottom.
We want to take a look at the EQ here. So we want to cut everything below the fundamental, give ourselves a little bit of high-end thwack, and then we'll see what else might need done.
Inside, won't you?
Oh yeah, look at how much low-end information was in that. Let's just loop this. Mute the vocals for a second. Too bad. I think we can leave that there. Okay, let's take a look at the same thing on Rack Tom 2. Okay. Still not catching snares on that. That's good. Our virtual mix rack should be good, but we'll go ahead and check to make sure. What's our peak level? 10. Still 10. That would be because I'm looking at the wrong thing. Come on, brain. Okay, just a little bit up. That was 9.4. So let's go down half a decibel so we remain at 10. And let's look at a channel EQ. We just want to do the same exact thing. Cut everything below the fundamental. Give ourselves a little bit of high end. We are getting a little bit too much on that one. Okay, and that could be fundamental. That could be the fundamental frequency is just a little too strong. Let's try cutting that by like maybe 1.5 decibels and see what happens. Yeah, I think so. I think it's also right above the fundamental is doing that. Yeah. Yeah, that's better. Okay, and then we'll take a look at the floor tom. So same thing here. We've got our drum leveler. Okay. So we're not boosting any snares in there. That's good. We'll get our virtual mix rack over there and make sure that that's not doing it or boosting that too much. We got 8.8 without it. 5.7 with, so quite a bit of a boost right there. We need to go down an additional 3 decibels to get that to match. That's better. Sounds pretty neat. Let's take a look at an EQ. We can go ahead and set up that high end. I don't know why I keep hitting 2500 instead of 3500. There we go. Okay. Nice. Yeah. Good with all that for now. I think I'm already good with the overheads pretty well. Maybe we could stand to boost a little bit of high end. I don't want to go too hard on that because we have a lot of ambient noise. You know, there was we also don't use in-ears on stage. So this is with actual monitors blasting music at us. So there's a lot of bleed from other instruments in these. But let's try. I usually do boost a little bit of like really big top end in the overhead mics, as long as it's not drastically increasing how much we're hearing everything else in the drum mics. Let's get rid of this cycle. Yeah, I think that is actually a little bit beneficial. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at an EQ on the bass guitar. So first we can high pass everything above 35. And then we're going to carve out some space here. So a little cut at 60 for the bass drum. A little boost at 80 to kind of tell the bass guitar to go there. Yeah. I'm not sure at the moment that needs anything else, because Justin already does quite a lot of work in his pedal board to get the sound that he wants. Until we're a little further in the process, honestly, I think that's already slotting in really well. Okay, so now let's take a look at my guitar, at least at the pedal audio. So let's high pass this. Just want to make sure my guitar is not taking up too much low end information. Boy, those toms are a lot more present now than they were. Let's turn them down. Yep, I think that's good as is. Let's take a look at what Amanda's guitar is doing. Ooh, she's got a lot of unnecessarily low end. Being an acoustic guitar, it's pretty boomy. Let's boost her up a little bit more. Actually, let's mute me. Yeah, already that's better. Let's give her a little bit more high end. Ooh, okay. Not like that, though. So maybe maybe right around 6,000 will give her a little bit of a boost for some more pick. And I open the vocals back up right for the guitar solo. That sounds about right. Okay. Most of the vocals at this point are just going to need high pass.
Shot of whiskey. Yeah, bartender, hit me one more time. He left, I cried. I'm lost inside. Won't you help me?
Yep, good enough on that.
Down to the dark.
We don't really know what Amanda's gonna need since she doesn't sing much in this song, but that same channeling cue we just put on Kelly is gonna work fine for now. And then for mine, let's just do that same EQ but back it off a little.
Shot of whiskey. Pour me that shot of whiskey.
Yeah.
Yeah, bartender, hit me one more time. He left.
Okay, so we got a pretty good idea now regarding context mix of what this should sound like, but we can keep working to clean it up and get it more and more sounding good. And one of the big things that you really have to do, especially in live, now I do this in studio stuff too, but especially with live, you should just cut out everything that needs to be there. So like on these tom tracks, anytime he's not hitting the tom that mic is pointing at, let's cut it out of there. No point in getting extra ambient noise. Same thing on these vocal tracks. Anytime Kelly's not singing, especially anytime I'm not singing because I don't sing very much, those might as well be gone. And as long as it's not suddenly adding something when it's there that sounds jarring, if it's not drastically changing the sound, then it's going to increase the quality of everything else for that ambient stuff to not be there. So let's start by doing that with the toms. We can zoom way in on the toms here. And we can cut just like this. So now we've just got this tom fill. And we can go even further by cutting the individual tracks to just when he hits those drums. Just like that. So now rather than having all of that extra kind of nonsense, we've got nice, consistent, here's the toms. Just as an additional thing, take a listen here. If we solo these 3 tom tracks and listen to a spot where he's not actually hitting the toms. There we go. So all this that we're hearing here is just like unneeded ambient noise that's making the drums sound muddier. Until that right there, where obviously we need. So we'll cut this again. We'll cut all of that stuff in the middle there that we don't need. Clean up the actual tom fill itself. And then eventually we're going to come back and add in a tiny little like millisecond long fade in and fade out on each one of these. That's easier to do once you've cut the whole track apart. So that we don't get any nasty like pops or clicks when the track starts or stops. Now luckily, we can pretty easily visually tell when there's a tom fill. So here's another one right here. Let's cut out all that extra stuff. Same thing here. Yeah, it's so much cleaner. Let's take a look for another one. Here's another one here. Yeah, that is a lot of extra noise. Oh, there might be a couple of toms. Yeah, so he's hit the high tom there a couple of times right before we start the little rim click thing. Okay, Eli, if you're still in here, which drum are you doing that rim click on? Is that the snare, or is that one of the toms you're doing? Because we definitely should not cut if you're hitting tom rims right there. In fact, I bet you are, now that I'm thinking about it. I think you are hitting tom rims there. Right? Yeah, we're hearing that pretty loud on the tom track. Tom 2, okay. Yes, good to know. So let's definitely leave the Tom 2 track for that entire thing. It started a little bit. Yeah, like pretty much like right after that Tom 1 it starts. Yeah. So we'll make sure that stays in there. And we've got our tom fill right here. Okay, we got to be just about to the end of it, because that we were hearing right there is like verse 3, and this isn't a super long song. Okay, we got another little thing here. Okay. It almost looked like there was a Tom 1 hit right here, but I think that's just a really hard snare. So I wanted to listen to make sure that if we needed to keep it there, we kept it. We got 2 tom hits. We want to make sure we don't get rid of that second tom. Okay. And I think that is it for tom fills in this one. Yeah, we didn't do like the big ending right there. Okay, so now we select all 3 of these tracks, which also selects every single event on the track. We can grab our fade tool, zoom in on just one thing, tiny little fade in, tiny little fade out, and it does it to every single event on all 3 of those tracks. So nice, easy, done. We've just gotten rid of an absolute ton of ambient tom noise.
Pour me, pour me, pour me, pour me that shot of whiskey.
Yeah, those toms are still quite loud. I don't think we need them to be quite that in your face. But we're still building. Another interesting thing that I'm kind of looking forward to when we get there is adding a reverb to this whole thing. I don't know if you guys noticed, but despite the fact that this was a live performance recorded outside, it doesn't sound like it's been in a room. It doesn't have that weird like reverby sound that you hear on normal like live concerts and stuff. That's because all that stuff is added later. It's fake. Now, a lot of big bands, when they record live concerts and stuff, they have audience microphones so that you can really hear the ambient noise from the audience and when people are singing along or when they're clapping or that sort of stuff. And, of course, that has noise from the front of house PA coming into it. But we don't have audience microphones or anything on this. And when we're only hearing source, microphones that are pointed directly at the thing, you're not really hearing that much of the room around it. So if we're going to make this sound, reverby like it's a live concert, we're going to have to add that reverb. It'll be interesting for sure. Okay, let's also trim off a little bit of the beginning of all the drum tracks, because pretty much until Eli starts, there's no reason for the drum tracks to be on. Oh, darn it. I messed that up. There we go. And the same can be said for a lot of this other stuff. So like the bass, we can cut up to here. There's no reason for that right there to be there. There's probably even a little bit of space here. Now I start this song, but yeah, there's actually a decent chunk of extra unneeded space right there too. Guess we could have cut my DI in the same. There we go. Amanda's guitar, same thing. She doesn't start clear up until over here, so we can cut all that. Now Kelly's vocal we're going to leave in there most of the time. Vocal mics are always, they look like this. They're kind of hard to tell. Like when is there singing and when is there isn't. Or when is there isn't. Oh, there's a good quote for you. Somebody put that on a t-shirt. Wow. So there's spots here that are visibly bigger than the other stuff, which, that's where she's singing. But it's a lot harder to tell. So we want to make sure that we're not taking out too much. Vocal mics can sound really weird. If you cut them at every moment that somebody's not singing, and then when they start singing, suddenly all the ambient noise, especially drums, is suddenly coming through their mic again, that can sound really, really weird. So we got to be careful with that. So let's take a look here. If we just solo Kelly's mic and play a spot where she's not singing, how much ambient noise is that mic hearing? A lot. So we got to keep in mind, taking that away would be a good thing for the sound quality, but if it's suddenly coming back every time she sings, are we going to notice that something suddenly sounds way different? It's a pretty quick way to ruin a live recording. Okay, well, let's do a test there. So we know this section right here, she's not singing anything after this little blob right here. Starts again over here. So if we just cut this and we listen to this, does this sound like something like obviously goes away and then obviously comes back? I didn't hear anything go away. So at least at the moment, I think we're okay to cut out big long spaces like that of nothing. Now I don't want to go in and cut out like every single moment she's not singing, cut it out, you know what I mean? I think that would be overkill. But at least during like solos and intros and stuff, there's no reason for the ambient noise to be there. Yeah, she starts singing like right away. So there's another good example, right? This is obviously her singing, but so is this. This just looks like the rest of the ambient noise. So, yeah, definitely got to be careful when you're cutting stuff that you're not cutting the wrong stuff.
Thank you. We are super glad to be here with you guys on this holiday weekend.
Oh, that's right. It was Memorial Day, right? That just suddenly occurred to me. I was like, wait, holiday? Yeah, Memorial Day weekend. Okay, and then same thing on my vocal track. It's pretty hard to tell when I'm singing, when I'm not. These little areas, I'm pretty sure is where it is. but we might as well be cutting out most of my stuff.
Pour me, pour me, pour me, pour me that shot of whiskey. Yeah, bartender, hit me one more time. Pour me that shot of whiskey.
Okay.
Yeah, bartender, hit me one more time. He left, I cried. I'm lost inside, won't you help me? Yeah, been to the doctors, I hit rock
And then we're okay up clear until here.
on me. Pour me that shot of whiskey. Yeah, bartender, hit me one more time. He left, I cried. I'm lost inside, won't you help me? Yeah, been to the doctors, I hit rock bottom this time.
Clear up to here.
Pour me that shot of whiskey. Yeah, bartender, hit me one more time. He left, I cried. I'm lost inside, won't you help me?
And I think that's all I said. Yeah. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing we did to the toms here. I did this to Kelly's as well. I just didn't call it out when I did it. Little tiny fade in, little tiny fade out. So we're not getting any nasty pops or clicks when stuff comes in or out. Did I do that to the... Okay, I need to do that to the beginning of Amanda's vocal here where she talks at the end. Okay. Cleaned up. Now, the next decision that needs to be made is how hard we're going to be cutting some of these things apart. So, again, if you're familiar with the Afterwinter project we just completed over on the Afterwinter channel, I usually have 3 snare tracks. Backbeat snare, snare fills, groove snare, because we affect them slightly differently. On a live recording, it's kind of, you could still do that, but there's a little bit less point, I would argue. And I'm thinking that for this, we don't. I don't think we need to cut the snare part for this. That might be overkill. I think we could, but I don't know that it would benefit it enough to warrant that level of work for every single one of these songs. The other thing is we need to play around with my DI guitar track. Like I said, I recorded a totally straight DI that bypasses my pedal. It's directly from the guitar to the recording equipment so that we can make sure that the transitions from sound to sound, and if there's like delay on the solo or anything like that, that it's always consistent and we're not hearing like nasty pedal switches in the wrong spot. There are a couple of spots in this show that I struggle for some reason to hit the right button on my pedal. So as long as I play everything okay, this DI channel gives us something that we can put a virtual amp on and totally bypass the need for like, uh-oh, that wasn't right. Here's an interesting thing though. Why is there sound right here on my guitar track but not on my DI? What's happening there? It's just really quiet. Interesting. Okay. Let me think about this here. Normalize region gain. Process all equally, and we would want this to be at like probably 10. Let's go 7. Yeah, that didn't hardly do anything, actually. Okay. What happens if we do that up to 1 where it was saying. Normalize region gain. If we let it go up to -1, what does it do? Boy, it still just doesn't hardly do anything to this section at all, does it? Okay. So let's just mess around with this for a little while and kind of see where we get. So if we mute my pedal channel, which we know is sitting in there okay and it's at an okay volume, we've now got this DI instead. Now in this song, I only need a sound change once. At the very beginning, I'm in clean, and then pretty much the moment Kelly starts singing, I'm in distortion. And then distortion for the rest of the song. So the clean area... Oh yeah, actually it's right up to this where we're seeing da-da. Right there. So... let's do a cut right there where that happens. Treat the top one as the clean channel and the bottom one as the distortion channel. Guitar clean. Distortion, and we'll just experiment right away with whether or not this is worth having on there. So for the clean guitar, obviously we want to EQ, but I think we want the amp on there first. Let's take a look at a THU Slate amp. Let's see. Squeaky clean, that seems like a good preset to check. So what does that sound like? There's a weird chorus on that I'm not sure that I'm super big on. How about ambient warm picking? I didn't hate it other than that reverb. The reverb was a little ridiculous. Let's turn the reverb off. Yeah, that was a little better. Let's turn the reverb back on, but let's turn it way down. That was a little more appropriate, yeah. Leave that there. And then we've got our channel EQ where we can make sure that we're not doing anything too crazy in the lower end. Shouldn't need to multi-press that. And then let's see if we can find a good distortion sound. My other guitar is at -10. We'll just do that the same here. And again, I bet this THU Slate is probably going to do us better than anything else as far as what I've got. Let's take a look at rock guitar. Just see what classic crunchy rhythm is. Keep trying some other stuff. That wasn't bad. But when I turn that volume down, it like disappears. Ugh. Okay, you know what? I think this might have been overly ambitious. Let's just use the pedal sound. That'll make that's one less process we have to do in every single song anyway. If I didn't do it good enough live, then that's not how it ends up being. Let that be a lesson to me. All right, so we have done quite a bit to this now. We have cleaned up and we've done kind of basic EQ. Let's move everything because we've got this big open gap right here now that we cut out a bunch of the stuff at the beginning. So let's move everything a little bit closer to the front. This certainly looks a lot different than it did when we first started too, having cut all of the kind of unnecessary stuff out of each track. All right, so let's start doing the actual sound detail so that we can start getting stuff to sound the way that it's going to actually sound in the finished product. And then hopefully we won't have too much to do in terms of volume detailing with automation and stuff, since this thing isn't like packed to the gills full of stuff like the Afterwinter stuff was. You know, we're talking about 14 audio tracks here, whereas some of that Afterwinter stuff had like 70. Quite a lot of things packed in that we are not worried about here, which should theoretically make this a whole lot easier. Okie dokie. Think for a second about where we need to go. Yes, so we want bass drum first. We want to keep that drum leveler on there, but let's turn that channel EQ off. We want to put in a virtual mix rack where we are going to listen to all of our kick presets just to see what we get. This first one is going to be Crazy. This is the metal preset, which I know I don't even like this in a lot of the metal mixes, but it's still funny to listen to. You know, I don't hate it as much as I thought I would. The high end is too much, but other than that, it's not terrible, honestly. That's a pretty good option. It's got low end, it's got high end, it's got some punch. We could adjust that to work. Kick vintage isn't too bad, but it's a little like blubby. That's got a little bit too much low end, but it's pretty good other than that. Also, don't hate that one. So there's a few others, but I do usually end up going with one of those. So let's check this. It's a lot tighter than the last one. Again with the super high end. I have gone with this one a few times. This one's good. Okay. Keep that on the maybe list too. Let's go back to this kick metal. If we pull down this high end, there's still something in there that's not great. This kick rock needs a little more high end, I think. A little bit more work. I think that might be our best option. Let me go back to yeah, that one's still not bad. Let's go with this one, I think. Pull down on the low end just a hair, but not much. What are we hitting without Virtual Mix Rack? Like 7.5 or so, and then with. Level match here. Okay. So Virtual Mix Rack is taking care of a lot of things in the chain of what we want. Saturation, compression, EQ, all of that sort of good stuff is included in the Mix Rack. So now we kind of need to redo the EQ that we made earlier. Let's just recall the default here. Again, we want to high pass anything above 35. And then we want to go back to kind of trying our other boosts and cuts. Boosting at 60, cutting at 80. Oops. Boosting at 60, cutting at 80. And we usually end up with a little boost of high end. We may not need that boost of high end. Yeah, I don't think we need the high-end boost. Just because I'm curious. So we got our fundamental right here, right a little bit lower than 60, but we've got this other big hump right here, and I'm just curious if we push that down, what happens? That did kind of tighten it up a little bit. Yeah, let's roll with that. I like that. Okay, so drum leveler, making everything consistent. Virtual Mix Rack, giving us saturation, compression, EQ. The channel EQ, just giving us a little bit further specific controls. And then lastly, we have the good old multipressor. Well, anybody who watched any of that After Winter stuff probably knew I was going to say that. Or at least isn't surprised to see this. Bass drum really desperately needs a multipressor in the low end just to make sure. Now, the big thing that a multipressor is doing on a bass drum or a kick drum track in metal music is making sure that when there's double bass, the low end frequencies aren't building way up. There's not going to be much or any double bass in this stuff. Definitely not in this song. There might be double bass, a little bit of double bass in some of the other ones. But the multipressor is going to be doing a little bit less in this particular band stuff than it is maybe doing in, other stuff that I mix. But still can be necessary for any bass drum hits that are pretty close together. The key is to, on the average hits, not get a lot of compression. We don't want to overdo it. Established a good average there. Okay. Until we get to parallel compression, I think that's going to be our bass drum sound. Okay, now we've got our snare, so we're pretty much going to be doing the same thing here. Let's mute our channel EQ. We've got the gain on there. Let's take a look at a drum leveler. I'm not convinced we'll keep it. So we've got a thing called Just Snare here. Might be worth taking a look at. Let's just kind of see what this is getting us. I think we want to pull this down to maybe 3. We definitely don't want this compression knob very high. can see occasionally it's missing snare hits. We can pull this down.
Don't you put no quarters in the slide. I don't wanna talk and I don't wanna dance. I ain't sure ain't looking for romance. I don't wanna hang out with the crowd.
Yeah, it's not doing bad, but I also don't want the added, like, we got to go through and make sure it actually grabbed all the snare hits, or make sure that it's not, like, boosting things that aren't snare hits, that sort of thing. Let's just leave the snare. So let's go right to Virtual Mix Rack with this, I think. There we go. All right, now keep in mind that we have just undone the channel EQ that was getting rid of that kind of Saint Angry sound. So what on all of these presets that we listen to, we want to like kind of just keep that in mind, that we're going to go back in and get rid of that Saint Angry thing again. That's pretty good right off the bat. Also not bad there. I go with that one pretty often, but I don't hate it here, but there's a little bit too much high end on it. Yeah, I definitely think we had either the first one or the third one. And immediately we hit a no snare part. Yeah, I like a lot of stuff about that one. Here's the third one. Yeah, I think I like the first one better than that one. I think the fourth one also wasn't bad. Yeah. Yeah, I think the first one's our best option, honestly. This one's got a nice punch to it. We just got to get rid of that weird Saint Angry bit. All right, let's level match. Okay, bring our channel EQ back up. So we want to make sure we high pass everything under the fundamental. And then we have our Saint Angry sound right there, right? Yeah, we're almost 400. Hearing it like that, I think we want a little bit more fundamental.
Here's my story, it's sad, but it's true. There's so many things.
Okay, next things. So we definitely want a snare reverb on here too, which we have not set up yet. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. Now, I really like what we had going on the Afterwinter project. Let's just see if by chance some version of that same reverb works. So just literally pull in the snare reverb send from the Afterwinter session. We'll assign that to bus 4. And we need to send a copy of the snare signal over to bus 4. So what we're doing on this is the very first thing it hits is this EQ right here, cutting off everything below the fundamental and also a lot of the high end. So a very tight version of the snare coming into this reverb. Then the reverb plugin itself, which is the built-in Logic reverb set to Hansa Studio, which is a medium space. And then another channel EQ pulling down a little bit on the fundamental and pushing up a little bit on 3500. So we're getting the hiss of the reverb and a little bit less of the like mud and junk. I don't hate it. Let's leave that for now. We might the further into this we get, we might change that, but I think for now it's okay. Okay, next thing we need is a kick and snare master. So we need to grab the bass drum, the snare drum, and the snare reverb, and all of those need to output to bus 5. There we go. Which we can name Kick and Snare Master. I'm going to change the color of that because this is a sub-master. We're going to make it this kind of like burnt orange here. And now we've got a single slider there that controls the bass drum, the snare drum, and the snare reverb all together as one, which we can also compress if we want to. I don't think we'll need to at the moment. Next, we've got the toms. Let's just go ahead and copy the snare reverb. And then, of course, we're going to call this toms reverb instead. We're going to make this bus 7. Right? No, bus 6. Yes, bus 6. So we want to send a copy of the toms over to that bus. Now I want to restrict these a little bit less. So this 200 is probably a little bit too much. Let's pull this back to more like 100. Or else the low floor tom just isn't going to get any reverb on it. We also, we also want to take a look at this EQ and get rid of this pull on 200. If anything, we probably want to pull that down more to like this, just so that we're not getting too much extra low mids or low end out of that reverb there. We're going to want to mix this in because we definitely don't want the toms to sound too big and boomy. Yeah, honestly, where it is fairly appropriate, I would say. Okay, and then all of our toms and the tom reverb need to output into a new bus, which is going to be bus 7. This is the toms master. So again, this is a sub master, so we're going to make it that same kind of like burnt orange color. Now this we do want to mess with a little bit. So first off, we want to do a multipressor on the toms, just to make sure that we're catching any frequencies that jump out. Just go ahead and loop a little bit right there. And then we also want to compress this regularly. I don't know that he actually hits two different drums or two different toms at the same time at any point in this, but I'm sure he does in other songs. So we might as well go ahead and get it set up now. It's got our toms master. We almost always go with grab mode here. Set this up to toms. We're going to set the saturation to 25%. And then we want to be seeing this not jump too much. Again, knowing that I don't think there's any point in this song where both or two toms are hit at the same time. We shouldn't be seeing a huge amount of compression here. I would be aiming for, like, if he hits two drums, for that to go to about -3. There you go. Level match here. All right. Seems like we're okay without messing with that gain, actually. We're not compressing enough for it to really hurt it. Okay, and then after that, we've got 3 overhead channels, and these need to go into an overhead master. This is going to be bus 8. Ooh. Something just occurred to me about this that I hadn't thought of before. Every time I turn these and make these into the new bus, you guys aren't hearing them anymore, I think. All right, it's something I got to remember. This is going to be the overhead master. Okay. Trying to think of the best way to combat this that makes the most sense. I know what I need to do. I just make sure that I do the stuff in the right order. Okay, so we got some stuff to do to that overhead master, but we'll do that in a second. We're going to set up a drums crush, which is going to be bus 9. This is parallel compression on the drums. I definitely want you guys to be able to hear anything we're doing, or else there's not really a huge amount of point in live streaming this. Drum crush. We're going to mute that for now. And then we want all of these submasters and that drums crush to go to, like, just an overall drums master, which will be bus 10. And this is the drums master. Oops. And this one needs to be green because this is in an actual master, and that needs to go back out to our end chain, which means you guys should hear it again. Okay. By the way, for anybody who's watching, if you ever see that happening, if you're seeing my mouth move or seeing the playhead move on Logic and you're not hearing anything, I probably have done something wrong and I haven't realized it. Don't be afraid to comment and say, hey, something's wrong, or hey, we're not hearing anything. Okay, now that that should be fixed, let's go back to our overhead master. So we need to compress here as well. Just going to open up that smash and grab again. This needs to be smash mode and also overhead type. We're going to set our saturation to 50%. And again, we're going to be looking for maybe a tiny bit higher than -3, but not by much. There we go. Level match here. Okay, snare reverb's getting to be a little bit much. I'm seeing something that we're going to want to tame fairly soon. Our snare is sometimes jumping up to -2 all of the sudden. Now, when we first set that volume, it was at -7. So I'm not sure what would be causing it to jump up to -2. But we are definitely going to want to take a look at that. Okay. So we got our overheads compressed fairly well. We've got everything sending to there, which is what we want. That's probably our next step. Now, we do need to do the drums crush, but I want to make sure that the snare is doing what it's supposed to be doing. So let's kind of look at our average hit. Yeah, so it seems like at our current volume, like our average hit is right around 7. So let's take a volume envelope, and we're just going to go through this entire track, and anytime it goes above 7, we're going to grab that and pull it back down. So, yeah, almost right away it does. Let's actually pull this down here. Notice those first 2 hits are a little quieter than the rest of them. That's a little weird. Let's actually turn those first 2 hits up. So we had kind of a section of them there that was loud. All of these right here peaked like quite a bit above 7. Still. That's odd, because the ones that are hitting really hard like that don't seem audibly that much louder. But apparently they are. We still hit 6 right there, darn it. I can deal with 6.8, I think. That's super weird, because then that one hit 5.6. I feel like it shouldn't have. Huh. Did I probably targeted the wrong hit on that one. Whoopsie daisy. I don't wanna talk and I don't wanna dance. I ain't sure. Huh. What, are we boosting a bunch of high end anywhere? Maybe here. What does this sound like? Where is it set? It's set at 3. If we put that back at 0, what changes? Okay. So weird. This is one of those things where drum leveler would have come in handy, but it would have caused a bunch of other issues. So it's kind of a pick your poison type thing. We had one that was at 6 right there. I don't wanna hang out with. Wanna hang out with the crowd. I don't wanna get real loud. Believe me when I tell you that I thought this through. question for technicality's sake. Just because I'm curious. This may not work, but I'm curious if it will. If we set a limiter to -7, and let's say we push the gain about 2 decibels, then we let this be -1. Actually, we should probably put that at the end of the chain, shouldn't we? Does that just solve the problem right off the bat? Would be nice.
Pour me that shot of whiskey. Yeah, bartender, hit me one more time. He left, I cried. I'm lost inside, won't you help me? Yeah, fill me the dark, 'cause I hit rock bottom this time. Well, I don't wanna listen to the old jukebox. Don't you put no quarters in the slide. I don't wanna talk and I don't wanna dance. I dang sure ain't looking for romance. I don't wanna hang out with the crowd. I don't wanna party and get real loud. Believe me when I tell you that I've thought this through.
Okay, hold on. Just a second here. I'm not sure that was what I was... Yes, okay. I wanted adaptive limiter, not normal limiter. Now, our output ceiling can't go lower than 2, so we'll keep that there. We'll also put the gain at 2. That would mean we should theoretically put the volume of this at something like -5.
In the dark, 'cause I hit rock bottom this time. Well, I don't wanna listen to the old jukebox. Don't you put no quarters in the slide. I don't wanna talk and I don't wanna dance. I dang sure ain't looking for romance. I don't wanna hang out
Okay.
with the crowd. I don't
Yeah,
wanna
that might have done it.
get real loud. Believe me when I tell you that I've thought this through. There's only one thing that I want you to do. Pour me not a shot of whiskey. Yeah, bartender,
So it doesn't
hit me one more
boost much in the way of
time.
quiet sounds, but it does kind of cap the louder ones.
Cry. I'm lost inside.
Okay.
Won't you help
Good.
me?
Good. All right. Let's go ahead and call it there for today. So we've made a pretty good amount of progress on this. Now, keep in mind, not sure if any of you watching were here in the early episodes of the Afterwinter project we just finished over on the Afterwinter channel, but the first song always takes the longest. We are establishing the sound that's going to carry across the rest of the project here. So this first song is always just going to be a lot of experimentation and trying to get things to sound the way we want, and then we can start from that point on the next one. So right away, the next song will have a way better starting point than this one did, and then it doesn't take near as long to kind of get through all the rest of the songs. So this one is going to be a pain in a lot of ways while we work on establishing kind of generally how we want everything to sound. After that, I don't want to call it smooth sailing, but it'll be much more smooth sailing than the first one always is. The first song is always the most difficult. Now, we will have a little bit of weird stuff to mess with the rest of the songs because this band stylistically is very eclectic. We do lots of different covers in a few different genres, and this genre that in Pour Me here is not necessarily kind of, what's the word? I've lost the word here. Doesn't really tell you what this band sounds like, if I'm being honest. It's not indicative of the rest of the set list. So we may have a couple of other spots where we have to work on making sure that things sound different. We might have to change the sound of the drums or change the sound of the guitars for some of those other styles for it to still sound good. But we're still doing the bulk of the work right here in the first song. So having said that, we have done quite a huge amount of work on this, and it sounds very different than it did when we first started turning sliders up right at the beginning. So we're just going to keep on working. Okay, so closing out for today, but we should be back next... Actually, I don't think we'll be back next Thursday. I'm going to make this a Thursday afternoon thing. I think next Thursday is an exception, though. Next Thursday, we have a doctor's appointment, I think, that's going to pretty much wipe out my entire Thursday. Okay. 2 Thursdays from now, right around the same time, right around 1 o'clock, we will get back into this and we will continue working on this thing. We've got some other projects in mind too besides this. It won't just be this, but at least for a good while, we're going to be focusing on getting a bunch of this done. So if you are enjoying this sort of thing, absolutely feel free to come back and hang out some more next Thursday. Again, really, really appreciate everybody's time. If you're in here even for just a second to check it out, whether you're watching now or whether you're watching this in the future when it's not live, really, really appreciate coming in and checking out. Hoping that you're enjoying what you're listening to, enjoying watching it come into what it becomes. And we've definitely got plenty of stuff to do this for. So maybe this will become a pretty ongoing series, which would be pretty neat. So thank you once again for all your time. Again, not next Thursday, but the Thursday after that, we should be back between like 1 and 3 to work some more, keep getting this thing sounding better and better.